quicksand.
Yes.
Like it really stay strapped.
Oh, always, dude.
Welcome to the Grappling With podcast.
Man.
Dr. Chris Hardy and William Walker will take a deep dive into topics covering wellness and prevention, performance, recovery, and injury management. Our mission is to provide the latest science-based information to help you get the most out of your grappling journey, both on and off the mats, and help you overcome any challenges you may be grappling with. Dr. Hardy is a licensed physician and BJJ practitioner, but the contents of the podcast are meant for educational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Please seek out personalized care from your own medical provider prior to implementing any medical treatment or intervention.
Bill is a licensed buffoon. He says things that are a little squirrely. Do not hold these things against his gym mates, his family, Chris Hardy, Harry Hardy, or anybody at his gym.
That was amazing.
Look at that.
That was an incredible disclaimer.
3 months in.
And third person, which was super cool.
Yeah, you know, when you become this big, you just got to change your vernacular.
I like it. He is an amazing person.
Yeah. He's your father.
That's awesome.
Also says crazy things.
Yeah. That's a good one. I like it. It's segued really nicely from mine.
Yeah. We'll take another 3 months to update it. So
It's all right, man. This sounds good. It's awesome. So sorry, everyone. We missed a week. Blame me.
Yeah.
Worst respiratory, I think, illness season I've ever had. It's
Yeah.
been awful. And I think you got a little bit of the pestilence here,
I got
too.
a little bit of something from you. A little bit of your DNA is inside me.
Oh, that's never a good
Why
thing.
did you say that, Bill?
Well, I got tissues to protect me and to protect you. So, also we have to apologize because we told people we're going to have,
Mo.
yeah, a hybrid of a man.
Yes.
He's Arab of some sort. He is Brazilian in his heart.
Yep.
While also being a man of the land.
Yeah.
And he's not here.
Well, we'll have him. We're already rescheduling.
Yeah.
So that's nothing to do with him. It was our buffoonery.
Yeah, it was Chris getting AIDS, me getting HIV.
No. Why do you say the things you say?
Well, he had his disclaimer. He feels
Yeah.
like he's okay.
Yeah, I could have
It's not a
gone.
free-for-all.
All right.
I could have gone down the smallpox route, and I didn't. Okay,
Oh my
That might
goodness.
have been better.
It may have been.
if we both got smallpox,
Or TB. I don't know.
then it's like, who gave it to who?
Interesting. This would be like Knives Out.
Let's be real.
We'll figure out the
you.
mystery.
I'm giving it to you.
Okay. Hilarious. Please.
Hopefully, my mom does not watch this episode.
Well, now she will because she said that.
She tried watching the last one. I think I mentioned that.
Uh-huh.
And she couldn't because the Musamechi leg stuff.
I don't blame her.
It was too gross.
It's
And she was like,
horrific.
you know what? I gave him 5 minutes of watching. That's good enough for the algorithm.
That's good.
Tell
her thank you.
Thank you, Mom.
So, I have a little bit of a rant
Oh,
coming out here.
you're on your front porch.
Yeah,
Yelling
yelling
at
at people driving by. Yeah, that kind of
Okay.
thing. One of those get off my lawn type of thing.
Sure.
No, it's something I've been thinking about off and on for a while. It's actually one of the subjects of that book I wrote, and I hate to reference it, but it's true. Go ahead, Olivia.
Nope. Nope.
Boy, we're running a tight ship today, brother.
I need to label this thing.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Who knows what else is under one of those buttons? It could be
Yeah.
very bad.
I might have set a landmine in there.
I probably. But, talking about, so, I have people come up and ask me, acquaintances, friends sometimes, well, what do you think about this supplement? Or what do you think about this? And
That's not how I sound.
no. But let me put it in context.
Okay.
Some of these people shouldn't be worried about a supplement when kind of their foundations are completely a wreck. In other words, if you smoke, you're not sleeping well, you're eating a bunch of fast food all the time, and you're not, those are kind of foundational: nutrition, sleep, stress, not importing, free radicals and oxidative stress from environmental things like cigarette smoke and stuff like that. Why a supplement should be the last of your worries at that point to try to enhance your health.
Which protein bar you're going to eat?
Or, hey, what do you think about this fat burner or whatever when you're still eating,
Yeah.
Burger King? And it's not a judgment thing, but it's like, come on. I mean, you know, the analogy is like, you know, if I have a 1920s built house that's kind of crumbling from within, and I put a nice little paint job on the front of it just to make it look nice. What am I doing?
Right.
Yeah. So it's always a little frustrating. And I'll tell you, I understand, because real lifestyle change, as we talked about, is super difficult, and it's tedious.
Yeah.
It's not fun to be like, gosh, I really shouldn't eat that, or man, I really should get to sleep, or figure out what's going wrong with my sleep. You know, work on those foundational things that are so important for your health, because a supplement is just going to be a waste of money at that point. Because it is, Olivia brought up a nice way to think about it. It's a pyramid. The foundational stuff is your base on the bottom, and optimization and like supplement stuff should be on the top, right? After you've already kind of built your pyramid.
Yeah.
Just for a visual. And, you know, sometimes it's frustrating. You know, when I keep hearing, well, what about this? What about this? I'm like, well, what about you get better sleep?
Yeah.
You know, or what about, how about let's get some regular exercise in, or,
Right.
yeah.
Why is that stuff at the top? As in, not most important top, but
What do you mean?
End of
The supplement?
pyramid. Yeah.
Yeah, because so it'd be like, let's go back to the house analogy. You know, let's say then I just completely, you know, I built a new house. I built really good foundations. I have really good materials, good wood, good hardware, a really good contractor that put it together really solidly.
Yeah.
Now, the kind of icing on the cake, so to speak, you know, put some really cool trim and make it look pretty type of thing.
And all that.
Yeah, the you know, the surroundings of it, to you know, the landscaping and stuff like that, right? But that's where that's kind of optimizing what's already a good thing, right? And where supplements come into the same, for the most part, when I'm usually talking about athletic performance or people are looking for weight loss supplements, I'm not talking about things that are like magnesium and vitamin D that we kind of need for environmental reasons.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was kind of confusing the two.
Yeah, and I understand. I didn't really parse those out because, you know, obviously, you know, if the soils are over-farmed and we're just generally, as a population, magnesium deficient, yeah, that's kind of a thing, is a foundational thing.
Right.
Vitamin D, because we live in the Northwest and we don't really have a lot of natural sunlight.
Sure.
Then that's a foundational thing too, but it's technically you could consider it a supplement.
So stick with me on this analogy here. We played my disclaimer, right?
Oh shit, here we go. No, now you got to say it.
It's not bad.
Okay.
Is that why you had to ask?
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
Oh, Darren. Just stop.
No, you got to do it now.
It's not even like bad.
But now it's going to be boring now.
It is.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm wondering, is someone with that bad foundation, are they... Sorry, I'm so stupid. Are they, like, when they're taking in some fat burner or something like that, or a no explode or all,
whatever, yeah,
right,
performance enhancing, right?
Yeah, from GNC. Is it the equivalent of throwing a hot dog down a hallway?
I'm sorry, what?
You have to explain it more because I don't want to just speculate on what you mean by that.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Why don't you ruminate on that for a second? Is that a good word?
Yeah, but I don't want to.
I don't even know.
Imagine throwing a hot dog down a hallway.
Okay, a cooked one.
No,
Okay,
fresh out the bag.
okay,
Not a brat like an Oscar Mayer.
It's just
okay.
gonna be slippery. It's gonna go really far. It's
I like where we're going with this.
gonna roll.
What? Like, is that the equivalent of someone that doesn't have a good foundation? They look like Humpty Dumpty, and they start taking these supplements.
Dude, how's that a hot dog? You're gonna have to explain. You're gonna have to spoon feed me this one.
I think he's just making stuff up. He thinks of things and
No,
he just says
there's some weirdo out there that understands my joke.
Okay.
Because they've heard that analogy in other ways. So, probably Carrie, actually.
It might be my wife.
We'll bring it up later.
Yeah.
So okay,
That just
that one
landed.
fell a little
That
flat.
was well, yeah, maybe because I'm stupid.
there's 3.
Jake's probably laughing.
Jake's laughing.
Okay.
Carrie's gonna laugh. Everyone else is like, this guy's stupid and needs to stop talking.
I could probably speculate
Okay.
some things,
Let's
but I'm
go
not
with it.
going to.
Okay.
But how does that relate to what I'm saying?
There's not much effectiveness
Okay.
to the hot dog going down the hallway.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it seems fairly random,
Wasn't so
though.
hard. Well, I don't know about that, but
Okay. Oh, my God.
Okay, let's get back to the topic.
So,
This
keep
is just
going.
gone-
Holy cow. I was expecting something completely different. Now you're like, oh,
I am what you call a man of mystery.
okay. Maybe someone else in the comments can kind of clue me in.
Ooh, I hope so.
That'd be funny. So, no, but I think that's something that I see, and we see more and more of this. We see whole industries built upon catering to that instant gratification type of, well, this will fix whatever. This will help you lose weight. This will help you perform in the gym. But you haven't taken care of those foundational things that you need to be in place, right?
So just help me understand, though, why that, let's say, an overweight or someone that's been living unhealthy.
Okay.
They don't have to be severely overweight or anything. Just
Okay.
they haven't been doing some
Stay
of
up
these.
late. They don't get good sleep.
Yes, all these things.
Poor stress management.
But then they introduce something that's supposed to boost their testosterone naturally. Some HGH, not actual HGH injections, but like, all this over-the-counter crap. Why wouldn't that help them?
I'll tell you this, because you're putting it into an environment that is already not working well, and is, whether it's their metabolism is
Planting veggies in bad soil.
Yes. I like that.
Thank you.
And it's also like when Carrie does a regenerative medicine injection, like PRP, or she'll do exosomes or Wharton's jelly or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to have a good environment in which that to take place. And she always tells people that are coming to her for these type of treatments, all right, you need to stop drinking. If they are drinking quite a bit, we need to reduce, they really need to try to clean up their diet, or otherwise what we're doing is you're putting it into a bad environment that's not optimized for it to work well.
You're not saying they need to be healthy, as in they need to be in shape and all this
No.
kind of stuff. You're just saying there needs to be some of these lifestyle things.
To focus on first is my point, instead of looking ahead of those things that are foundational to something that is a supplement. Is just that, it's a supplement.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it can be beneficial if everything else is in place. You've already kind of, you're just trying to optimize some things. Right. Sure. I mean, that makes sense. I just not in place of these foundational things is my point.
That makes sense.
And I'm not saying, if you're doing it concurrently, if you're like, okay, I'm really working on my sleep and all that, that's fine. But I'm just saying, if there is systemic inflammation in your body due to, being overweight, pre-diabetic, whatever, these things aren't going to work well anyway, is my point. Your body's not working as it should anyway.
Right.
And so you're making expensive urine for the most part. You're basically peeing it out.
Yeah.
It's not being utilized the way it should. But anyway, it's a general theme.
Do you think there's something to drinking your first urine of the day?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I haven't tried it. You know what we can do? We can do an N of 1 experiment. And we can do some testing on you.
You gonna start it?
No, I would. I will run the experiment if you were willing to do that, since you brought it up. And then we can do some blood work. We can try. We can see before and after. See how that works for you.
It's not where I was going with that.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know why you would do that. That's just like dehydrated urine?
So urine is nitrogenous waste. It's how we get rid of nitrogen, basically. There's a reason why you're doing it, right? And to maintain, blood volume.
Have you ever heard of that? Drinking your very first pee in the morning?
No.
Machida did it.
Yeah, Loyola Machida did it.
Okay, well, good.
He said it gives them.
It's strength.
Well, if we're going to make claims,
Yeah.
if you're down for it, we have the capability to do blood work. We can do performance measures. We can do all this stuff.
My name is not Leoto.
Well,
it wasn't me. I'm just passing.
You're just passing along.
All I could think about is, what was that movie where he drinks it? Is it?
Oh, Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
And he's like,
yeah, he like drinks these. He's like, sir, I wouldn't do. He's like, you shut your mouth if you knew it was good for you.
Yeah.
And then he drinks. He's like,
yeah, it's hilarious.
get out of here. My favorite part of, not my favorite part, but just a classic scene. I just used this recently. Was when the cop gets next to him in their little van. And he's like, pull over, and he goes, it's a cardigan.
A pullover. I know.
I mean,
that's good.
Come on,
it's good. It's
brilliant.
That is a classic movie. I can't ever argue with you on that one.
Yeah, I have something that's a little bit.
whoa.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm not. It's
Chris is
related.
not finished.
I know it's related.
Okay. Be
But
careful.
I want to put it at the end
Okay.
of this segment.
My rant.
Yeah.
Okay.
You still got some?
Is
Well-
that why you're
Well, it's
you
related.
were trying to take over?
I
Chris
didn't.
finished his rant.
Please, I need this. My psyche needs it. This is my therapy. Come on.
This is going to tee you up more, or it will tee you up more.
Perfect. So but I have something that may relate specifically also to jiu-jitsu. So do you want to do this before then?
No, they'll do it.
Okay. So, this isn't just health and wellness. You can think of the same thing with people coming in learning jiu-jitsu, and there's nothing wrong with YouTube. We've talked about this before. It's a great resource. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do, but if you can't escape side control, or your shrimp isn't good, or your fundamentals basically, which we all could use work on, but especially like at white belt level, if you're focused on these kind of fancy, flashy looking things, and not really spending time on the things that are a little more tedious and that is cool, building your foundation, it's the same thing, where you're basically trying to get a collection of techniques and you're not spending the time you really should be spending on a foundation of learning the art. At the lower levels and at the upper levels too. I mean,
So you're saying don't learn K-guard before you know how to shrimp.
I mean, it's probably, I think your time would be spent learning fundamental movement.
You're going to do more shrimping.
If that's a problem for you, That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't pick up cool techniques, but don't do that at the expense of spending the time that can be very tedious, but very, very worthwhile, learning how to survive and escape positions, especially, no one wants to, hey man, let's go work on some mount escapes, right?
Right.
They're always like, hey, I got this cool new submission.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think your time would be really well spent working on mount escapes.
Totally.
That's all I'm saying.
Which I actually battle with that on teaching. Is I'm very long-winded with my style of teaching.
You got some wind, that's for sure.
I got a lot of wind coming out of every hole in my body.
Yep.
So, but I see the value in like solo drill, not necessarily, kind of like line drills, I guess, but I see the value in some of those things. Now, for like brown belts or something like that, maybe not as much, like just basic shrimping, but I think you can, like Cobrinha has good, same with AOJ, like and Tynan. They have really good solo movement stuff that doesn't matter what level you are, you could do, like you could improve on your movement and stuff. And I battle with that in my mind of like, I want to, especially if there is white belts and blue belts, purple belts, it's I want to like do some of those solo drills, but I already run late every class, as in like I run past the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not even doing situational sparring.
I get it.
It's a tough balance.
But that's a challenge of an instructor.
Yeah.
Which, trying to be all to everyone, especially if you have a mixed class of different levels, it's tough.
Right.
but
And I only have like 15 to 17 people in my class.
Right.
I don't even have big ones.
Oh my God! Like, can you imagine?
No,
Andrew
and I were just talking about it. It's
Whoa,
like
yeah,
45 people.
It's crazy,
It's crazy.
and it's really hard to manage that at scale. But putting the responsibility, when I'm talking about your own jiu-jitsu journey, your own responsibility outside of class even, or during open mats or things like that. You know, when I see 2 white belts drilling mount escapes, I'm like, they're going to go far with that, because then they're going to be confident in these foundational type of things, right? Or, you know, working on their closed guard and working on different, instead of, you know, we always pick on the berimbolo, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, though. More of the fancy type of stuff. But I just think that applies to many different fields, not just health and wellness. I think a lot of, there's in society in general, I think there's a big instant gratification thing that people are just, they're like, oh gosh, that's just like a lot of tedious work, that, you know, this foundational stuff. Like, well, learn how to play guitar in 10 days, you know?
Right.
It's like, well, not so much, you know? But anyway, that was kind of my little rant that,
now it translates.
Yeah. You had something kind of snarky on there?
No, you son of a gun. So I was sent this by someone, and they sent me actually a couple things that have to do with like supplement and like just stuff on Instagram, little quick clips.
Sure.
One, I was going to only do one. I'll just do one. It's about HGH.
Okay.
So I'm going to play it and you can watch it, and Liv, you can go on that camera. Okay. And then I'll have the speaker here. Let me.
Well, the camera that looks at you.
Yes. So. Oh. That's a bad joke. Okay.
Okay, so would you like to know the exercise that can boost human growth hormone by 771%? Any ideas? Sprinting. We're only talking 20 to 30 seconds. And then you want to rest for 90 seconds, okay? And then you want to repeat this and work up to about 8 times. I'm going to put a study down below. You can check out the link. So sprinting can be twice as effective as injecting human growth hormone. Okay, so would you like to know the exercise that can...
Hogwash, malarkey,
no. So
kind of real.
We've known that the high intensity type of training can, but then who are you? What is your recovery state? You know, are these studies that they cite, they're typically in trained athletes. And so, no, it's well known that provides a big anabolic stimulus.
Yeah. That
type of intensity. But if you're doing that day after day, burning yourself down, then we start getting a cortisol response, the whole stress cup thing, right? And
so could this 700% increase, could that be...
over what? Their baseline, they're saying.
Right. So, like you just said, if you sprint continually for a year, it's not going to be 700% on 700. Like, it's, okay, your first initial increase in the first month.
So yeah, and it's like anything else. It's like a novice lifter, right?
Yeah.
Diminishing returns. What they're saying is, you know, we know this. Most growth hormone is secreted is in deep sleep at night. Okay, so let's say you get your sprint in, but you're sleeping like crap.
Yeah.
Okay, the intensity of exercise is correlated with the degree of growth hormone secreted that night. It's a protective response.
Yeah.
Right. So the body's like, oh shit, we did something really hard. We got to adapt to it, basically.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to get into your window of deep sleep, that a lot of that really happens, you know, you're not going to get adequate recovery. Your growth, that growth hormone spike won't be near the amount it could be from that's just a stimulus.
Yeah.
So whether or not the 777%, whatever, I'd have to look at the paper. They probably did, you know, they looked at their statistical analysis. I'd like to see who the study subjects were,
right,
what their baselines were, when did they measure this HG. You know, there's so many things for me to make a comment out of it. But in general, high intensity exercise will stimulate an increase in growth hormone more so than a long kind of slow distance will.
If someone is on the beginning of their journey, a lot of the time they run on the treadmill,
okay,
or jog, would you recommend sprinting instead?
It depends on what you want.
Fat loss.
Okay. that is a great question. And that has been shown that the early studies on high intensity interval training, which is sprinting is a type of, Tabata did. He's a Japanese physiologist that you've probably heard of Tabata interval.
Yeah.
The original study, it's no fun. The original studies had people doing just that, running 30 to 40 minutes at kind of a low steady state on a treadmill versus another group that did the Tabata interval, which is 8 rounds of 30 seconds, 20 on, 10 off, which is basically 4 minutes of exercise if you think about it. Full out though, right? And at the end of the Tabata group actually lost more body fat. This is a whole nother subject, and I think we've covered it before, but the expenditure during exercise typically is minuscule compared to what it does afterwards. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
So you can say, well, I burned whatever many calories during this workout.
Yeah.
If it's a high intensity interval workout, it may be relatively low amount of, quote unquote calories. That depends on how they're measured, through a smartwatch or something like that.
It's always way less than you think too.
Yeah, totally.
Like a lot of people think I'm going to burn 1,000 calories in this workout.
But afterwards, the metabolic rate is elevated significantly up to 36 hours with like a real high intensity training session. Mm-hmm. And so you are burning more over time. You have an increased growth hormone that night if you're sleeping well, which then is lipolytic, would mean burning fat. So if you're looking at body composition change, if fat loss specifically, and not trying to lose a lot of muscle mass, mm-hmm. then it seems that type of training can be superior. But it depends on what you want.
Right.
There's also something to be said for building an aerobic base, right, with some running. But again, it's the dose of this stuff, just like a medication, is really important. Yeah. And you got to know what you want and why you're doing it. So if you want to train in triathlons, well, you better freaking run.
What if you want to get a body like Nikita?
Well, you probably could give him some good advice on that.
Ooh, burn.
That hurts.
Major burn.
It doesn't feel good on my insides. It burns.
Yeah. There's antibiotics for that too, dude.
Okay.
So
good talk.
Yeah, but does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
It does. And my friend will listen to this, I think.
Yeah, but again, it's an input, and an input is only as good as giving it the ability to do its thing,
right,
with proper recovery and all that.
Okay. Livy, is your rant done?
For sure.
Livy, you got some questions.
Which would you like to start with first?
By the way, before you start, I'm sorry I'm wearing this. I realize I'm wearing the same thing I wore 2 weeks ago.
Such a loser.
I know. It's like an old dude thing, right? Yeah. It's like you're wearing the same clothes.
Your mom still dresses you.
Oh. Sorry, Olivia.
Oh, okay. No, that's all good.
Just whatever's at the top.
Okay. UFC contract with ADCC. How do we feel about this?
So, the ADCC Abu Dhabi Championships, mm-hmm. they were up to re-sign with Flograppling mm-hmm. for their contract mm-hmm. For broadcasting rights, mm-hmm. and they were very upfront that they're not just going to guarantee re-sign with Flow. Mm-hmm. They're exploring all options. Flograppling, Amazon Prime, Fight TV, which is where Fight to Win just went, mm-hmm. Which is a pay-per-view model. Mm-hmm. Or there is a monthly subscription you can do. UFC Fight Pass. Mm-hmm. And I believe there was another kind of major one. But what ended up happening is they made their decision and they are leaving Flograppling and going to UFC Fight Pass, mm-hmm. where already Eddie Bravo Invitational is, mm-hmm. Polaris, Grapple Fest, and your new favorite, Slap.
Don't even get me going on that.
What's it called?
I don't know, but it's stupid.
Okay.
Slap deck?
They're basically trying to knock each other out by taking a slap
with
to the
open
face.
Hands.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Oh my God, dude.
That's gotta have
it's like in what? Like
CTE is gonna be
absolutely
more than boxing.
For sure.
More than
Yep, because you got to sit there and take a slap.
Yeah.
And that's, if you ever watched any of Boss Rutan's old stuff,
Well,
some people they'll knock you out with a slap.
Brain hemorrhages come from the brain tearing from the skull, right? And then the blood flows into that tear.
A type of it. Yeah, exactly.
And
depending on their subdural or epidural.
That's what happens to boxers.
Yeah,
right?
it can.
That's when they die, like that night, right?
It can.
It can. So, and that's caused by a devastating punch where their head snaps.
Do they have to do they have to keep their head straight, or are they allowed to go with the slap to like absorb it?
Well, I mean, they're all going to try to roll with it a little bit, but there's like fouls and stuff like that. So
oh my gosh, people are dying.
if they turn too much or if they step.
You guys seen Idiocracy, right?
Yes.
This is one step away from Ow My Balls. That's how I'm looking at this, man. And is there a market for it? Yes.
I think if it's well, of course, because it started with the Russians.
Of course it
Freaking
did.
Nikita. And so I think if it stays on the air for like a couple of years, let's say, I think someone will die or be put in a coma or something like that.
Look, and even if they don't,
Yeah.
it is the dumbest thing ever because you're sitting there having to absorb a blow
Right.
repeatedly.
And dudes are getting KO'd real quick.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Almost
Have
everything.
you seen these guys freaking slapping?
they're
you?
huge.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So
we should do it right now, but I go first.
Exactly. You'd put me right out, dude. I have no wish to do that. But a lot of people would probably pay to see you do that to me.
Definitely a lot of people.
They would, which is the whole point is that there's a market for this and there's no denying that I'm sure everyone's going to tune in. But it's freaking dumb and it's terrible for you.
How many people would pay to see me slap the shit out of you right now
A lot.
that have a duck patch on their gi?
Oh.
Well, they would still probably do it, but then try to duck me. Get it. Say that.
But how many do you think?
Probably all of them. But that duck loyalty only goes so far, man. They're like, no. Chris is a good guy. Oh, you're gonna slap him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They want to see their commander just be
for
drooling.
sure.
I just imagine Jonathan liking his smile.
Oh my gosh.
I guarantee he would laugh
Yeah.
Oh,
after he feigned like he was really concerned.
he would have a
he'd laugh.
genuine concern. But then he'll go,
That shit's funny. Yeah. Plus all the hardware in my mouth, it'd be a disaster, dude.
cut my hand.
I know. It'd be a disaster. You wouldn't want to do that. That's like, you don't want to watch old people get freaking beat up.
That's true, you don't.
The thing is, with when it came out, and it was, you would just see these little clips of these Russian guys slapping.
I've seen
the hell
them,
out of each
man.
other. Like it was kind of like you would watch it and you'd be like, "Holy smokes, that was nuts!" But as soon as it like gets turned into like this Americanized, like super marketed like league, you're just like, I don't like this as much.
Well,
because you never see like you would just see him get smacked, and then like it was a 15-second clip. They got rocked or whatever, or some poor guy with his eyeballs tattooed gets knocked out completely. And you're like, well, he tattooed his eyeballs, he deserved it.
Yeah.
But now you're just seeing dudes like, you know, I got a family, I got my kid just born.
Yeah, just doing it for them.
I'm doing it for them. It's for you, Mikey. And unfortunately, he's the first one to get slapped, and he's freaking twitching on the ground.
Dude. So
You're just like, I can't watch this.
you know the whole thing, jumping the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now. Because you're right. It was like an oddity and like, oh shit, do you see what they're doing? You know, like now it's like a thing.
Yeah.
Like a league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like tough. Like the
I
Ultimate
know.
Fighter. They
I
have
get
a
it.
house.
Oh,
I
I'm
watched
sure they
I watched
do.
a 6-minute clip. It's
Oh my God, dude.
Had profiles on each guy.
Oh my God.
Also, I found out that they're paying them $4,000 to show and $4,000 to win per match. Let's talk about that. How
They ain't gonna pay for
Sounds like the medical
They ain't gonna
bills?
pay for the medical bills. Now,
But that's oddly more than I thought.
well, you look these guys, especially if you become a professional slapper. I wonder what probably not gonna be a long career
I bet your 8th grade teacher predicted that for you.
for me. Yeah. My 8th grade. I had a bunch of them. I was in junior high school.
Oh, that's true. I thought you were in the short bus.
No, I got out of that, man. That was after 6th grade. I was good.
Oh, look at Chris over there playing wall ball by himself.
Yeah, no, I actually made some friends in 7th grade. And
That's cool.
I know.
Do they speak English?
Yeah,
Yeah. No shit.
I know.
Okay. Okay. Anyways, so
No, so my verdict, it's going to be popular as hell and it's dumb as hell.
the slap thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna move on from those guys.
Okay.
And so that's on UFC Fight Pass,
Okay.
and that's where ADCC decided to go.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Excited? Not excited?
This is what I will say. Any of those other things, and I hate to say this, but this is how I feel.
The other platforms.
Other platforms are a step up from where they were. Same.
Throwing shade.
No, just that's the truth.
You're talking shit.
Production value, organization, reach of their,
Audience.
yeah. So Amazon Prime would have been really interesting. I mean, one FC is on Amazon Prime right now.
There is, yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a deep debate in the gym because there's a few Amazon employees
Yeah.
and other nerd types from other big.
No, I
software
know
companies.
who. Yep.
And those big companies have, they use Slack and they have little channels for jiu-jitsu and stuff like this. And some think it seems quite split. Some think that Amazon Prime would have been really, really good because they have friends that hadn't even heard of, like Mikey Musumeci.
Right.
But because it showed up on the banner when they logged into Amazon Prime to watch whatever,
Right.
they didn't really have anything in mind to watch. And they're like, oh, let me just check this out. And then they watch Mikey destroy a guy's leg.
That's my point. Whereas you have
But then some think that it actually isn't good, which is interesting too.
this is, and I'm uneducated in that area, but as a consumer,
Right.
I'll tell you how I feel.
I like it.
So UFC is not a bad move, but on Fight Pass, there's that paywall where you got to subscribe to Fight Pass. Okay. They have they have really good marketing, right? They have a lot of money behind that.
Yeah.
They know how to put on fights
Yeah.
of all kinds, right? I really would be interested to see UFC do, and I know this isn't on this topic, but do what they did with ONE FC, where they'll have a card that has MMA, they'll have
Right.
grappling. I think that's super cool, and I think that would be a really cool way for it to go with that brand.
Right.
Anyway, I think, but as far as your casual fan, I think Amazon Prime would have been a better move to get jiu-jitsu out to the greater population. Like, oh, well, like you said, this is on there. Let's check this out.
Right.
But I mean, I think any move is better than what they have.
So I think UFC Fight Pass, I'm going to assume, this is total guess, one of the reasons that they went Fight Pass is they'll have a better connection to get UFC fighters on like super fights. Because typically ADCC, they only had a championship tournament every 2 years.
Yep.
And then they did trials, which are open to anybody, but it's like the hardest, basically like the hardest tournament. People say the trials are harder than the main one.
Right.
But because it's so long and so many matches, but and then the talent level is very high. And that was it. Except in Europe, they did do ADCC Opens, but we never hear about those. They're bringing that model of the ADCC Opens to America.
Right.
So starting this year. So they'll be doing ADCC Opens, kind of like IBJJF does, but with ADCC rules, the branding, and all that kind of
And
stuff.
that's why I thought Amazon Prime specifically for that model.
And they'll have super fights at some of these things, and there's going to be that connection to get a UFC fighter to help. And personally, I don't give a shit about.
Well, I know, but for I understand.
I get it brings some eyeballs,
but
but this is the thing I think that got them to UFC Fight Pass was Amazon Prime. So ONE FC is on there, and they do it's just a pure broadcast contract rather than UFC Fight Pass. The UFC they did one almost like a test event. I think we covered briefly with Gordon Ryan on it. And the UFC ran all production. Obviously, the UFC has ran more shows than anybody, so it was flawless.
That was my point.
Audio,
They know how to put that on.
video, just you could tell it was super buttoned up.
They got commentators that are, I mean,
And just my one bugaboo is always like they need to have someone coordinating the whole thing, an executive producer with other producers.
I know.
And they obviously had that because there was no like, this mic is on while the commentators are taking a break. You can hear him taking a leak because he left his mic on his lapel. All this kind of weird stuff. Cameras looking at weird stuff. And production value was there. They also have venues. The Apex Arena and the UFC PI, so they can hold events at UFC venues.
All those are great reasons to go with them, and I completely get it logistically.
I think those are probably a big reason why, because Flow actually provided all the cameras, provided all of the media, staff members, 60 staff members at the last ADCC. Flow provided all that. I don't know if Amazon Prime would be able to. It's a guess. I don't think they would. I think most likely ADCC would have to
come up with their own
a internal team to be able to do that. Rather than UFC, obviously has those internal teams.
And that's exactly, and logistically, you're exactly right. The only point I was making is that if you were trying to get grappling to a wider audience, that's all I'm saying.
Uneducated, and I think that's true as well. I think that probably would be the play there. He's probably Mo, the Jassim, the head organizer of ADCC. I assume he's doing that same tactic, but not with the completely uneducated. The semi-educated MMA fan.
Well, of course, and that's where it's going to go. I mean, that you don't get a UFC Fight Pass subscription as a,
And also, that's another thing why Flow, in my opinion, bit themselves in the butt is they only do yearly subscription model. So you have, I think it's $150 or something like that. So if you only care about ADCC and the championship, then you're going to pay $150 to watch it. That's not really worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
And also so then on the apps or the visual side, a lot of people when they watch the big tournaments, they watch on their TV, and because UFC Fight Pass has an app, Flow has an app. Some people watch it like I'll typically watch it. I go back and forth. I've been watching Euros yesterday and today, but I have a big computer monitor, so I'll put it on the computer monitor while I'm working, essentially. And on there, you can do multiple mats, right? But on the TV app, you cannot.
Correct.
So, which is where a lot of people watch it, and like I believe on the phone app you can for Flow. And that was a big thing. If you're going to sit down and watch like a long event on your TV and you can't do multiple mats, that's super frustrating.
Not at once. You can go out and check. Yeah.
But if they're running 3 mats at one time and you have Cade Rutola versus PJ Barch, the match of the freaking tournament going on, but Lachlan Giles is going against someone else over here, you're like, well, I like watching Lachlan. Well, now you just missed out on the best match of the tournament. Right. Rather than being able to have like 3 mats up at one time. And UFC Fight Pass does allow that on all platforms. That's another viewing experience.
Yeah, I just think from the support, the logistics, the whole 9 yards is a great move. I just don't know if they're really looking at bringing grappling more mainstream. But then you could argue the same thing about mixed martial arts. Is it really mainstream, right? And they're trying to do that with Amazon Prime on ONE FC. I wonder I don't know what the data is on that.
I mean, I would consider MMA mainstream at this point. It's just very
not like football.
No, of course not. I mean,
but I mean, you know what I mean.
I mean, football, soccer. These are
everyone knows
top of the food chain.
Exactly.
MMA fighters.
It depends on what you. Yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I bring in my opinion about this though? Okay.
Hit us with that lady's opinion.
I agree with what you guys are saying about all the benefits, right? But then my issue is because the UFC is being brought in, it's going to bring more of like the casual viewer who maybe isn't a practitioner. Mm-hmm. And so I worry about things like, okay, so when that ADCC tickets go up next year, mm-hmm. how many people are going to be there that are the casual viewer, maybe like because they've, or over in the coming years because, and so it's not even people who are practicing. So now people who are actually doing jiu-jitsu aren't going to have the opportunity
it turns into a
easily,
UFC event.
Yeah, as easily as it would be for, prior, because now they have to fight against people who don't even practice, let's say. Mm-hmm. But then also, it also makes me worry about accessibility to competitors, because this last one, we were able to walk down on the court, meet them face to face, take photos. That's going to go away at some point because they're going to try to blow it up so big.
I agree that is a downside of our sport getting bigger, and why I think it would be cool if competitors, like Gordon Ryan says, I think it'd be great and should be a goal that competitors can make money being competitors. Right. They don't have to do seminars if they don't want to. They don't have to own a gym. They can live off competition purses and sponsorships. I think that'd be great. Yep. Not there yet. Nope. You can't. There's a few guys, right? And like a Keenan Cornelius, you can't even count him because he has one of the biggest jiu-jitsu websites, one of the biggest jiu-jitsu gyms at this point. Can't count him, right? There's literally only a couple that it really are surviving off of. They're making really good money because of instructionals. Mm-hmm. Even Gordon Ryan, if he competes 5 times a year at 20 to 40 grand, a pop, he's not balling. Right. He's going to have his instructional sales to really get to those millions of dollars and stuff like that.
Or you got to do the seminar thing.
Yeah, the seminar like Craig Jones, right? Mm-hmm. I think he said 1 year it was a crazy amount of seminars.
That's brutal though.
Yeah. It was ridiculous how many seminars he did. It was like 35, 40 or something in a year.
It's a lot.
While he was also competing. Mm-hmm.
All the travel and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Gordon Ryan said the reason why he doesn't do seminars is because it takes away from
skill acquisition and training. Yeah.
And so doing instructionals means it's kind of like film this over a weekend and then he can spend the rest of his time training and making money.
Yeah. So I think there is a kind of a downside to people like us that when the sport does get bigger, for sure. I mean, it'd be more expensive to go places. You're going to hear retards talking in the crowd, which honestly, after being at ADCC, you kind of already hear that.
I mean, events like that will become more expensive to even go to.
For sure. Bigger venues, which like it was at Thomas and Mack. Now it's going to be at T-Mobile. Already the price is going to go up.
I get all that, and I hear what
I don't hate that. I'm not too mad at that. But
I hear what you're saying on that, but if it allows competitors to make a living doing this, and there's a defined pathway for talented people to do that, that's going to help our sport. The trickle down on that is going to really help too, though. But I understand, there is some frustration about.
But then there has to be, for that to happen, there has to be a honesty, I don't know if that's the right word, with the organizations. Because, for example, ADCC is notorious for paying more than anybody else, right? Uh-huh. If you win the tournament and for super fights. Well, there's certain organizations out there that do not. They are shitty when it comes to paying athletes. Yeah. And not as in they won't pay them, but their purses are dog shit. And they tier them depending on how many people are in, which they very rarely ever hit the higher amount. They only pay for 4 of the 50 tournaments going on.
Yeah, but those are going to die. So if
you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But if it's blowing up bigger and there's an opportunity for people to do better as competitors, those competitors are going to go to the places.
Which we already see a little bit, because you don't see B Team, you don't see New Wave, you don't see even Fight Factory, which is like Tackett Brothers. So you see Andrew Tackett, the young one, because he's just trying to be a savage. But there's a lot of these big teams that are not. The guys just are not competing in some of these tournaments.
Well, they're going to vote with their wallet, but they're going to vote. They're like, hey, well, we're not going to go. And then then people are going to stop watching those tournaments.
Which is where what gets hurt the most are the opens, because they don't pay anything. Yeah. But ADCC opens will.
Well,
and that's where the other organizations' opens will start to degrade.
They can, but there's also like coming in MMA going from amateur to pro.
Yeah.
Right.
Which those organizations are ridiculous, because not saying all of them, but a lot of them, they gouge they know that basically everyone that's showing up for a low level MMA show is family and friends. Right. And they charge $75 for a freaking ticket. Yep. It's like they're gouging friends and family.
Yeah. I mean, I still think it's going to be better overall.
Oh, for sure.
If we can have...
I think so, too.
If we can have talented athletes actually making a living doing it.
100%. It'll be a net positive. Mm-hmm. But there will be some things that we lose from it.
You always will.
Yeah.
But, you look at the individual local jiu-jitsu gyms. You have someone that's like 12 years old, like just saw Gordon Ryan or whoever, making a good living, doing something like that. I think it's going to help... attendance at our local gyms. I think it's gonna drive a lot of the community, but we're always gonna
pull in more of those collegiate wrestlers.
Yeah, man, it's just like going from like, gosh, I really like that that mom and pop shoe store, which I really like small business, right? And then you get a big conglomerate that kind of wipes them out, right? And it's just,
but they got everything available.
I know, and it's sad in a way, right?
Yeah,
I know you do lose something. There's no doubt about that.
I think but it's definitely a full-on plus to go to Fight Pass. Like, good
dude, it ain't going the wrong way. I'll tell you that. That's.
Yeah. I feel a little bit bad for Flo because they lost Fight to Win and ADCC. Like,
they lost Fight to Win.
Yeah.
Where is that going?
Fight.tv.
So, but that's what happens. So you in the competitive market.
Yeah.
You have to shift. You have to do what
There also won't be commercials during.
I know
that was a big thing for Mo. Is Flo is notorious about shrinking the match down to this little thing, while like a Little Caesars.
Let me tell you, there's many a night's cursing of Carrie and I. Like, what the F are you doing?
Yeah, and Mo hated it, and they wouldn't change it.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
They're bad.
Well, that's my point. I mean, you have to be responsive. Anyway, I think it's a great move. It's going forward. Put it that way. Yep.
What else you got, Liv?
What is the hardest concepts to learn when starting jiu-jitsu?
Oh, I will tell you.
Please.
This really hits home for me. Learning how to kind of reduce the flight or fight response and not be so rigid and, like stiff when you're training. As far as a concept goes, an overarching concept, that is one of as a new person, I think that's one of the hardest things to do, in learning how to breathe in uncomfortable situations, right? Getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that, for me anyway, I think that's the hardest. And I still, not as near as much anymore, but at times, I still catch myself doing that. I think that over any technique. Are you talking about, did you say technique, Miriam?
No. Concept.
Concept, yeah. That concept of controlling your flight or fight response in the middle of a sparring round when you're new is incredibly hard. And when I see people that are able to do that at an early level, I actually compliment them right away. Yeah. Not that you're bad if you're not, because Lord knows it took me long enough to kind of...
You're part of the norm.
The norm, yeah. And if you're, it's the rare person that is able early on to... I'm like, wow, they're really kind of relaxed, and they're not really tensed up, and
I think it's a big reason why a lot of professors, coaches, if not all of them, look for that to be a way you get to your blue belt. If you do struggle with that, which is darn near everyone that comes in,
Yeah, man, it's tough.
you will not get your blue belt
Yeah.
for the most part until you get some control of that. You don't have to be perfect. Obviously, we look at you. You're not perfect in any way. But
Yeah, I can't really argue with that.
your mom's I just heard her in another state away go, oh.
No, that's not what she said.
No, I know. She's like, yeah, get him.
No, that's not what she said
What did she
either.
say?
Because we mess with each other all the time, my mom and I, but if someone's messing with me, she's coming right after you right now.
okay.
She's going, Bill, you piece of,
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much.
She cheered me on.
I don't think so. But anyway,
So a lot of time that's a prerequisite is like you got to have some control before you get your blue belt.
yeah. And along the lines of that, not to that basic, but very similar is getting a couple gears that you have. There are people that will stay that have one gear.
Yeah.
Right. And it probably have served them well early, I'm talking about ultra aggressive,
Yeah.
always, explosive, which I'm not saying those are bad attributes, but not knowing where the other gear is. We had a black belt in at a seminar yesterday. And one of the most impressive things to me watching this guy roll, this guy's super explosive when he needed to be.
Yeah.
But he also was very positional. He would take his time. He wouldn't rush things. He would pull a trigger like a snake, though, like boom, and just hit it. But then he'd go back to another gear, right? And that was really impressive to watch that kind of, because he had that crazy explosive ability, but he also was able to kind of like, no, that's in reserve.
Yeah.
Shout
out to Ataish.
Man, great guy too.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed meeting
Beautiful skin.
him. Poor guy. Look,
Poor
man.
guy. That guy's got blessings.
Hey, that he has to listen to you talk about his skin. That's why I said poor guy.
I know someone, I just found out today, they thought he was like 24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know how old he is.
34.
Oh, it's good.
Now what are you going to say about his skin?
Nothing, man. Clean living, man. It's looking good.
True. That's true. Acai.
Nice guy. Super good jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree that's probably the big thing concept.
Yeah. You think so too?
Yes. I'm going to bring up another one just to
give it. Yeah.
I just forgot it.
Wow. It sounds profound. It must have been just amazing.
Was it intensity and aggression and stuff?
No. Son of a buckaroo.
Wow.
Concept.
Like a steel trap over there.
Yeah. It just...
As you're just messing
I was
with me.
thinking about Ataich's skin.
Yeah, and acai for some weird reason together.
Hot dogs in hallways.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Man.
Well, I could say something.
Yeah,
I guess.
go for it, Liz.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Would this be considered a concept like intensity versus aggression, or like knowing the difference, or I just was looking up something about like off balancing maybe people, like understanding like weight distribution.
Like the whole Kazushi thing.
Yeah, like where people's weights are and how to kind of understand like push-pull concept of like, things like that.
That is very difficult.
Yeah.
Something I was talking with a couple of our folks a couple weeks ago about that. Sounds goofy, but to the extent of starting to, sometimes when, rolling with a training partner, sometimes closing your eyes and really trying to feel weight distribution changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just little positional, if you're on top position, positional changes to
Push and pull.
Yeah, push and pull is super
knowing,
important. Yeah.
Which way, like, depending on where their weight is, like, do you push or do you pull?
That takes time to develop. I agree. It's very difficult.
I'm still like,
oh yeah, we all are.
Really
I mean, that's I agree. That's tough. Yeah, and I think that's very valid.
There was a white belt that made a good comment one time. He brought up, I think he's a musician, and how he related to like a drummer has to, with their lower body and their feet, have to be doing one thing.
Yep.
While their hands are doing something to a different beat.
Yep.
A different rhythm. But together they make something, you know, that is cohesive. But you have to like be pulling with your hands, pushing with your feet, and then twisting or something like that.
No, gosh, there's so many things that go along with that. Not only just sensitivity to weight distribution, but also, you know, not forcing things and knowing when and how hard. I mean, you could sit there and push super hard on someone with your feet, and it probably, in some circumstances, it's the wrong answer.
Yeah.
As opposed to just having contact sometimes, right? I mean, that's a whole other connection versus, you know, because if someone is like, there's a time and place to really stretch someone out, like you're doing a collar sleeve and you have foot on hip or something, especially you just pulled guard or something, that's fine. Sometimes if you're putting too much, you know, the static pull push, and they pop one of those off, you're not able to kind of recompose very quickly,
right?
Yeah, so I mean,
So I remembered.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if it's much of a concept, but it's the concept of persistence and showing up consistently. I think so often new people, they sabotage themselves because they either think they like need to get in shape before they like they'll try a class and then be like, this is
hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very exhausting.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I got to get in shape first, which is, you know, silly. Or they start and then maybe they start getting a little sore, or whether it's an injury or it's that's even minor, or they have some work stuff and for a week they can't show up. And then they get into that negative momentum, and rather than if you really want to progress, get better, acquire the skill of jiu-jitsu for whatever reason, the concept of showing up, even going through the motions. If you're injured, if you're going to be late, if you're tired, just show up and go through the motions.
Well, and our professor just said this yesterday, talked about the importance of consistency, to your point. And that's what it is, right? I mean, it is that, I think that does apply very well because we're talking about someone new, and then you're basically starting to arrange your life around something that becomes non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Right?
3 days a week. Whatever
it is.
But
whatever it is.
You're going to do this.
Yep. 1 day a week. Whatever it is.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
You're going to do this. And the trickle-down effect of that, it's that whole thing. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
It's true, though.
Is your car dirty? Most likely there's a bunch of stuff in your life.
Do you make your bed in the morning?
You know, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's especially with the scheduling thing. If, you know, and we see it, we're late to everything. You know,
it's improved
a little, but
are you asking for me to disagree?
No,
I'm just joking. Sorry.
So but we have to make a commitment to be on time, not just for the podcast or just for jiu-jitsu. It's like, no, be on time, and it will,
for the sake of being on time.
Yes. And if you start with jiu-jitsu, it'll help make a standard down the line.
I completely agree with that. And that's hard to
it's
do
really
that first.
Hard.
Yeah.
It's because there's going to be life.
So I will say that, and that, two different things, but both super important, and that, you know, kind of controlling that flight or fight, I think as a white belt are probably, you know, gosh, if you could do those two things.
Yeah. You want to get your blue belt fast? That's the beginning of the recipe.
Consistency
right
and really working on, I agree.
Control. Yeah.
That is an excellent point.
Thank you.
Well, you have them every once in a while. I got to give you props.
Broken clocks.
Speaking of giving props, we'd be really remiss if we didn't congratulate our professor.
Yes.
So he got his 4th degree yesterday.
I thought you were talking about the other professor. The new professor.
What the hell are you talking about?
You are a dirtbag. There's a new professor at our gym.
Are you talking about Brian?
Oh.
Or are you talking about Amy?
I'm not talking about Professor Momoa.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Professor Amy Solheim.
Yeah, well, I was going to get to her after her the next
You
one. I
couldn't
was
even remember her
Bill
name.
loves to skip ahead.
Oh my god!
I had to text him her name right in front of you guys. You guys couldn't see my phone. Her name's Amy.
You know what you and I are going to do? You and I are next time. You guys are both going to go up to Amy, and we're going to have a little talk about this, and we'll see what happens to you.
And I'm going to introduce you to her.
Oh my god, dude, you're so ridiculous.
So keep going. Keep going.
Well, I'm sorry, Amy. So first, I was going to say I want to congratulate Professor Andrew on his 4th degree. That's a super. I mean, it just shows.
It's a lot of years at black belt.
A lot of years at black belt. Not only just being at black belt, but running an academy, contributing to our local jiu-jitsu community. Just all the friendships and connections he has all over the area. It's really cool. And it was really cool to see Master Hercules give him that. Yeah. We had that seminar on Saturday, which was awesome.
8th degree
coral belt. Yeah. I just thought that whole thing was cool. And then thank you for stealing my thunder. But right afterwards, Andrew brought Amy up and she was promoted to black belt, which is so well deserving. I mean,
it was cool.
Anybody that has trained with Amy or been around Amy for any length of time knows that how well deserved that is.
Yeah.
So anyway,
We call her Tank for a reason.
Well, she is tough.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was really cool for me to see both of that. So.
Yeah, it was sweet.
Yeah, thanks for making me feel bad about it, man. Just,
Well, you shouldn't fake things. You should be a real person.
He's just doing to you what I do to him. So
Oh, okay.
That's not the truth.
You know who I'm married to.
And then we
me.
just got one audience question.
Oh, we got another. Okay.
Just one quick,
What do you got?
quick question.
Okay.
How would you treat, or how would somebody treat HPA access dysfunction?
That's not a quick question.
Just a little rundown.
Okay. First of all, let's go back to the model of allostatic load, the episode back about the stress cup. So that is a controversial diagnosis anyway, okay, in the medical community. There are certain people, they used to call it adrenal fatigue, and HPA, which means hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal, and then you add thyroid on the end. They're all kind of your endocrine system, basically. What they're trying to say is when people are under lots of allostatic load, which means stresses from all sources, whether it's, social or psychological stress, work, sleep, bad nutrition. I mean, anything. Well, exercise too. Anything that can add to that load is the first step in looking at if you feel like if you're running, you're basically probably in the equivalent of what athletes call an overtrained state, where it definitely affects your endocrine system can be affected. And what usually happens is you have higher resting cortisol. You basically are living in a low-level stress response, okay? And it's not so much as a treatment. I know there are people say, well, you should give people this, and this. But you need to identify the sources of that stress. What do you think is greatly contributing to filling your stress cup on a daily basis? It could be, look, I'm not sleeping well, or my boss is a complete jerk and I'm just miserable the whole day, and I'm in a low-level flight or fight at work, or I have, my kids having problems, which is super stressful for a parent, or I'm eating like crap. Okay. You really need to have an honest breakdown of what is causing that, because your body's just trying to react to protect itself. It's not like I have something inherently, like something growing in there, like a cancer or something. This is your body trying to adapt to a very stressful external environment. And the only way to really fix that long term is to deal with those stressors, which is not easy, right? It might mean big life changes like, man, I've got to find a new job. It doesn't mean you can do it right away, but it means like, I need to plan for that because this is not good for my health. Or it may be, look, I'm garbage at sleeping. I really need to focus on that, as you yawn. Or I know my nutrition's bad. Okay, there are things that are contributing to that overall stress to the system that I don't care what you give, like an adaptogen, like ashwagandha, or these kind of things that are supposed to be supportive of the adrenals. Again, it goes back to my previous rant earlier in the episode, in the podcast today, where we need to look at what the underlying causes of this are and why is your body reacting that way to it, instead of just trying to do some other supplement or something to quote unquote treat it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So
what you said in the beginning basically applies to this.
Completely what I said at the beginning applies to this.
You're not going to put a Band-Aid on
Nope.
and fix this.
And it's really difficult because some of these things that we're dealing with in life, it's like, well, I can't really readily fix that right now. Right? Yeah. There are certain things that are out of your control, but look at what is in your control and focus on those, because it's so easy to focus on, well, I can't do anything because I got this going on. Well, you might.
Crappy job, but
for sure.
There's a bunch of other things.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other, but focus on what you can control, and then maybe make some long-term plans to, change the trajectory of where you're going with your life. If this job is that bad, then, like I said, start putting out feelers. Maybe I need a little more education or what, I don't know. But I mean, that's, it's a tough one. But people want to say, oh yeah, here, you can just take this, this, and this, and you'll be okay. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Okay. Sweet.
Okay.
No follow-up?
I mean, all I was going to say is, like, it sounds like basically you have to figure out what your stressors are and learn how to
identify that first, for sure.
Yeah,
that is the important thing.
Figure it out, because
and be real with yourself. Like, how good do you sleep? How much shit are you eating?
Well,
drinking, blah 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 blah.
And I know, gosh, I hate referencing this because you guys got to push that button again, but that is the entire freaking
chapter 7.
No, it's the entire. That's the whole theme of that book, is the stress cup and figuring out what things are filling it and are affecting your health.
Right.
Because that's the whole model of disease I outlined in that book, is allostatic overload over time contributing to chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, which drives all these chronic diseases. Right. So it's part of that whole model. Anyway.
Sweet.
Cool.
I love it. If you guys could comment on the YouTube page with any questions, or if you got my hot dog down a hallway joke, that'd be great. Don't leave me hanging. grapplingwithpodcast@gmail.com.
I thought you were going to say dangling.
Why? You got a hot dog.
I don't want to explain it to you.
You're a hot dog.
Oh, well, I've been told so.
Yeah, that you got hot dog skin.
Well, actually, they're kind of smooth. Thank you. That's a compliment.
Nope. All right.
Now, if you said raisin.
We'll see you guys later.
All right.
Next week.
See ya.